Deputy Speaker. I wish to speak in support of the Government amendment, particularly the line in it about seeking a cross-party consensus. Opposition Day debates may not be the ideal time to seek consensus across the Chamber, but it is going to be vital in the long term. This is a problem that governments of all stripes have tiptoed around for 20 years because there's not a credible solution that's painless for everyone. It's expensive, it's emotive. For those of us who, through our families, have seen the current system close up, it's often very painful. But there have not been enough of us to make solving the problems less painful than allowing it to drift on, with regular injections of emergency funding, which are of course welcome, but which are a sticking plaster. So to have a long-term solution, we do need all parties to agree, as they have on pensions. Another long-term, expensive, complex issue on which we do reasonably well as a country. And even in these divided political times, I think people of goodwill can work together across party. We've heard a lot about the overall problems, all of which I agree with, on staffing levels, on wages, on the capacity of the system to cope. And the vast majority of people agree that we need to spend more. At the same time, they're insistent that they personally shouldn't themselves pay any extra tax. And we need a serious conversation about this. It's easy to present solutions if you don't accept that there's a bill for them. We know that social care, especially for the elderly, is often too opaque for those trying to understand it, with no apparent logic in the conditions which receive free NHS treatment and those which don't. It's also apparently unfair in not rewarding a lifetime of prudence. Those who have saved feel their savings will simply disappear, while those who have not saved receive the same level of care, often in adjoining beds. Less well known is the fact that funding social care out of council tax means that local authorities are too often reluctant to allow new care homes to be built. An ageing population means that already more than 2/5 of council spending goes on social care. This figure is only going to increase over the years, so councils are understandably fearful that all their other services will be swamped by the rising demands of the social care system. This is not sustainable in the long term. And of course, all the various failures in the social care system put unnecessary extra pressure on the NHS. Indeed, the long-term plan, with all its generous funding for the NHS, depends on an assumption that we develop a social care system that keeps people out of hospital longer and discharges them faster in a smooth and timely fashion. At the moment, both halves of that assumption are frankly questionable, as others like my honourable friend from Thurrock has referred to. We need to solve the social care problem to solve the NHS problem as well. I believe a new system needs 5 objectives, and interestingly, I listened to this speech from the Honourable Lady from Leicester West, and my list doesn't differ hugely from hers, suggesting that a cross-party consensus is possible. First, it needs to provide enough money to cope with the increasing ageing population. Secondly, it needs to be fair across generations, meaning that today's working taxpayers are not asked both to pay for their own care in decades to come and the care of the generation above them. It needs to be fair between individuals, ensuring that no one has to sell their own home for care, and ending the dementia lottery where one condition is treated on the NHS and another isn't. It needs to lead to an increase in the supply of care beds and retirement housing, and in an ideal world, it should establish a long-term cross-party consensus. And I do think we need to look as a model to the pension system, which has achieved many of those aims. In recent years, the state pension has been increased significantly, but at the same time, most people save additionally through their working years to provide comfort and security in old age. Auto-enrolment has been a great cross-party success story. Similarly, I believe that just as the basic state pension has been improved, we should offer a better universal care entitlement, a better level of care, both for home care and residential care. Needs would be assessed locally, but the money would crucially come from central rather than local government. And secondly, I think that we need to encourage people to save themselves through a care supplement, a new form of insurance designed specifically to fund more expensive care costs in old age, on the analogy of the private pension system, allowing people to buy insurance at a level they can afford to provide peace of mind. It wouldn't be compulsory, so it couldn't be stigmatised as a death tax or a dementia tax. I believe these ideas would take the burden of social care funding away from local councils and, even more importantly, offer certainty and security to the increasing numbers who will need social care in old age. No one would have to sell their house and see their whole inheritance disappear. Everyone would have the chance of receiving better care. Fewer people would be left unnecessarily in hospital beds as they wait for social care to be available. None of this is easy, and it will take political courage, but it is absolutely necessary if we are to provide peace of mind and security to frail elderly people and working age people who need care. They all deserve it.